Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial today. In today's video, we're going to learn how to make this dress with some sort of exaggerated sleeve. I think this sleeve is called cowl. I don't know. So if that is what you want to learn how to make for yourself, then keep watching this video till the very end as I give detailed explanations on how I came about this tutorial. Okay, the one on the thumbnail is my inspiration. It's actually an AI. Let's head straight to it. You'll be starting off with your basic bodice front all the way down to where you want your hem to stop or you want your dress to stop. So the next thing I'm going to do is to check the midpoint of my armhole. You can actually start from anywhere, but I'm using the midpoint of my armhole, okay? So I'm going to be taking it all the way to the bust point as if I want to create an armhole princess dart, right? Then I'm coming up here by 1 inch. This actually is not necessary. In fact, if you want to make your sewing easier, do not do this. So that you take this line all the way down to your waistline. Okay, that 1 inch that you left, that very gap there, you might find it difficult to sew it. So just take the line all the way down to your waistline. But if you're not going to find it difficult to sew, then keep doing what I'm doing right now. I hope you get that. So this is what your pattern should be looking like at this point. I went ahead to label brown, and of course the rest is going to be the black fabric. Also label center front. I always love to label so I don't get confused while I'm working with my pattern. So I'm going to be turning this around now, and now of course I went ahead to kind of redraw the line at the 1 inch. If I had known, I would have just left it at that point where it was initially. So I just redrew it to get to the 1 inch. You understand, right? So I'm going ahead now to open my side bust dart. We're just trying to create that armhole princess dart here. Then I also go ahead to cut this style line here, open. Then forming a pivot at the bust point, I'm going to be closing my side bust dart. Using my tape, I'll go ahead and hold it down together firmly. So at this point, this is what we are having. So I'm going to be separating the patterns now from the waistline, okay? The lower scale, we're not doing anything, just to cut open the dart and transfer it to the fabric and of course stitch it up when doing anything to the lower part of it. So I have to set it aside. Then we work on the upper scale. We're going to be cutting that line. Like I said, it's best you cut on the second line, which is directly on the waistline to ease your sewing. But if you feel you can do this, the one of 1 inch line, then there's no problem. You can also cut on it. So this is what the pattern is looking like right now. We're going to be removing or closing up the waist dart. Okay. So now that you've cut it out like so, you want to close it up just like the way you see me do right now. I'm going to use my tape and hold it down. So that's what the front pattern looks like. Okay, this is what the front pattern looks like. Then for the neckline, which is actually the basic, I kind of want to reduce it or work on it. I removed 1.5 inches from the shoulder. Then for the neck width, I removed half an inch. And we're going to be joining those 2 points together to form our new neckline. So this is what our front pattern looks like. Okay. So when you stitch here up, you kind of stitch up this place where we transfer the dart and it will still retain the feet. Okay. So heading over to the back, which is also very simple, and we're not doing anything much to the back. I'm also going to be separating the upper scale from the lower scale through the waistline. Then for the upper scale of the back, the only thing we are doing is to work on the neckline so it aligns with the front. For the shoulder, we are going to be removing 1.5 inches, exactly the same thing we did for the front. For the width, you can do whatever works for you, but I used half an inch here. So I'm cutting open the that. That same thing we're going to be doing to the lower scale so we can transfer that start to the fabric while cutting. So this is all for the back. We'll set it aside and then we'll work on the most important part of this tutorial, which happens to be the sleeve. So for the sleeve, you'll be needing your basic sleeve. Okay, whatever length you want. Mine is a long sleeve. Whatever length you want, just make sure you have your basic sleeve. Now you're going to be removing the part which you'll be using as your band, your sleeve band. You're going to be removing that part. So for myself, I think I used about 7 to 8 inches. All right. So I'll place it there and get that 7 to 8 inches, 7 inches or 8 inches, I can't really remember. And then with my ruler, I'll square a line across that point that I marked now. Then of course I'm going to be cutting it out. So I'll set it aside and then we'll work on this. The next thing we're going to do is we want to add fullness to this sleeve. Now, this adding of fullness determines how, see that very overfolding effect by the side of the sleeve? It determines how voluminous or how overlapping is going to be. So if you want your sleeve to be so big, you're going to be spreading out so much. Also consider your fabric. This is 2 yards of fabric for the brown and nothing was left. So you also want to consider the amount of fabric you have. Then you go ahead to open this up like so. Then you get a fresh pattern paper where you now rule a straight line from any point in the fresh pattern paper. Just make sure you have a straight line from the top to the bottom on the fresh pattern paper. Then you pick up your basic sleeve and place it there, making sure that the center aligns with the center of the line you drew on the fresh pattern paper. Now, as you can see, the cap sleeve, we want to add fullness to it. So I'm going to be using 6 inches on both sides. Here also 6 inches. Now we're going to be pushing the cap sleeve to be at that point of the 6 inches. I went ahead to use my tape to hold everything down to be in place. Now, at some point, I felt I would have made a kind of a bishop sleeve first before doing the next thing I'm about to do now. So I raised the cap by half an inch. Now I'm going to be cutting out the excess paper, so we just have the one that we need for this tutorial. Like I was explaining before, I said I think I would have kind of made a bishop sleeve pattern first, okay, before doing the slash and spread that you will see me do now. I'll try that out maybe later. It's going to consume a lot of fabric and also paper, of course, but I'll try it out to see what the fit or the design is going to give to me. So the next thing we're going to do now is to start drawing our slash lines. That was what I was saying. I felt I would have drafted a bishop sleeve first before joining these slash lines. Okay, bishop sleeve first before drawing these slash lines, but whichever way, just follow what I'm doing. You go ahead to start joining the slash lines. I'm making them look this 1 inch, like 1 inch apart, because I want a lot of fullness. If you don't want a lot of fullness, you can decide to make yours bolder. If you don't want so much fullness, you can decide to make yours bolder to still come out nice. So now the next thing we're going to do, okay, I'm still drawing the lines. So the next thing we're going to do now is to get another fresh pattern paper. This is where we're going to be spreading out those things on. But first you want to rule a straight line also again. So we're going to be cutting this one after the other and placing them on the fresh pattern paper using the amount of gaps I want to give, like the amount of fullness I want to give, or the distance between one slashed pattern to the other. Like I said, I figured actually that if you want it exactly like the AI, you have to first get your bishop sleeve before you do this slash and spread. So after the slash and spread, this is what I have. With that bishop sleeve, you find out that it's more like in a flare form, but this one is in a straight form. Okay, so with the bishop sleeve, it's gonna look like it's more like a flare form. Okay, bishop sleeve is same thing as a flare sleeve. So this is what it looks like when I cut it out on my fabric. So I went ahead to start cutting the bodice pattern on the fabric. So having cut that, head over to the sewing. So for the front part, which is actually the most technical part to sew, you want to place this part, and then of course you place also the brown. Now I've marked notches to help me know that this notch and this notch on the brown and the black fabric should align while sewing. So you want to make sure the notches align. You use your pin to hold the notches before you even start sewing. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. Can you see that stuff I told you? You want to take it down to your waistline to help your sewing and make it easier. I'll go ahead and get the back part of my pattern and place it like so to the front, so we can stitch it up on the sides and on the shoulder to create like the full upper bodice before we attach the sleeve. So I haven't stitched it up. Now I'm going to be taking my sleeve. I already ran a gathered stitch on my sleeve. Okay, I ran a gathered stitch on the sides of my sleeve apart from the cap. I'm going to be gathering the cap while I sew on the sewing machine. So you know the cap also was gathered, right? If you remember the 6 inches apart that we spread it out. So I'm going to be placing this now onto this part. Please, right side facing right side. Should be right side facing right side. And you will gather the cap sleeve into the center of the sleeve. Those 6 inches apart, you want to gather them into the center of the dress, that's the shoulder. You want to gather them into the center of the shoulder. So having sewn it, this is what it looks like. Now we're going to be getting sleeve band to put it onto the cap. Like I said, if it were a bishop sleeve, you have a lot of fullness to gather. You will gather that part into the sleeve band. So I feel if you have more fabric, you have more paper, you can do the bishop sleeve before the slash and spread it. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this right now, and after that, you guys, this is what we have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.